We are in North Platte, the first annual State of Beef Conference, and joining us now, Jim Robb, who is Senior Economist with the Livestock Marketing Information Center. And Jim, the focus is on this cow herd, and you kind of helped answer that question. Why rebuild that herd?
Well, I think there's really two phases. We've had a lot of operations that have been impacted by drought across the U.S., so we sort of have a restocking phase in the industry, and then we have a growth phase, and how much we're going to rebuild after that. I think that's the question, and there's a lot of economic forces at play. The demand side looks pretty good in this industry, both domestically and foreign, but it takes more capital than ever, so a lot of good discussion points at this really turning point, I think, in the cattle cycle.
Well, as we look, we're a couple years behind in the cycle. Are we at a point now where things are lining up that will finally maybe make that push and decide if a lot of these guys are going to start to expand and hold back these heifers?
Absolutely. I think the summer of 2014, really the turning point nationwide in stabilizing the size of the beef cow herd and setting the foundation in terms of holding back heifers to actually grow the cow herd. We see heifer slaughter down well below a year ago, beef cow slaughter down, and the economic environment is much improved. We're going to have the best cow-calf returns, cash returns over cash costs that we've had in the cow-calf sector really in history. So this really is all signs pointing to the summer of 2014 being the key turning point.
So we can kind of ride that wave. The impact won't be maybe quite so dramatic as we make that push and expansion.
Well, I think the expansion will be a very modest pace by historical standards. But places like California, where the lingering drought and the changing in cropping patterns and irrigation patterns, Midwest acres have been taken out of recent years, out of pasture and forage production into crop production, corn and soybeans. So really most of the growth will be in the Great Plains and the Midwest states. We don't think it'll be in the Intermountain states or the western states, or really in the southeastern or the that farther eastern Midwestern part of the U.S. I think the heart of cow-calf country will be where most of the expansion will take place, which sort of by definition means it's going to be a rather modest growth rate from a national perspective.
We know we are with some of the input costs, especially corn prices. Corn prices seem to dictate a lot. Say if we do see a change and corn prices go up another $2, will we see another halt again?
I'm not sure we'll see a halt, but we'll certainly slow the pace. That higher corn cost means calf and yearling prices will certainly be under pressure. And so we'll take the air out of the market. We see at this point in time, if we do have another big corn crop in 2015, these calf and yearling prices might go even a little bit higher than they've gotten this year. But there is always a top to a market. We're getting closer and closer to that top. It's going to turn on many of the factors that you brought out. Also, the slow rate of expansion really is the cost of capital. It takes more money than ever to really buy a cow, to buy land. All those things are a headwind to the rate of herd expansion.
As you look and put this cattle market in graph, I assume you had to get another sheet because these are in, did you think we would get to this point price-wise?
No, we came into 2014, all the economists said, the supply side's going to be tight. That's really materialized about as expected. But it's been the demand side of the market and the big corn crop, bigger than anticipated, that really got us to these record high prices. Consumer demand, both domestic and foreign, has been surprisingly good across the red meat complex. So this has been a supportive story that really we didn't anticipate going into this year. Some of its pork and chicken have not been able to expand at their historical pace. There's also something beyond that in terms of the U.S. consumer really starting to focus a little bit more on the red meat products.
Well, it seems like there's an awful lot of opportunities, and one of those also is the grass came out pretty good this year, but also we have a lot of room in those feedlots, so we may actually have those cattle spend more time in the yards.
I think we will. We've already had cattle on feed for more days. 2014 actually turned out very good for cattle feeders too, with a lower feedstuff cost environment and this demand side supporting fed cattle prices. 2014 was the best year for cattle feeding we've had since 2003. So that's really been good news, and we've had some healing up in our U.S. cattle feeding sector. It's been a tough go for recent years up until 2014 for the cattle feeders, and things are certainly better.
All this good news, there's another looming thing that may cause a bit of a blip, is the cool situation with the World Trade Organization wanting the U.S. to kind of get this country of origin labeling fixed. Will that be a big bump as we look at supply chain and some of our exports?
We really don't know yet. I mean, there's always, this industry knows we have hurdles, we have drought, we have a lot of, but this is a policy issue that will have to be dealt with. I think the WTO ruling's rather clear. I think there's many things that can be done, But the longer we wait, the more chance there is for retaliatory measures, both by the Mexicans and the Canadians. And that won't just touch the meat products. They'll broad base some of this tariff barriers and that kind of stuff. So it'll be a politically hot topic, and one that we probably need to keep a little bit of an eye on.
Jim, thanks for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
It's Jim Robb, who's Senior Economist with the Livestock Marketing Information Center based in Denver. At the State of the Beef Conference in North Platte for Ag View, I'm Ken Rahjes.